Satnam, aloha. So I want to talk to you about some books that I read way back in 2010 or so, maybe earlier. And the series is called the Ringing Cedar series. You may have heard of it. So basically it's a series of 9 books that tells the story of this woman named Anastasia. So nothing to do with the Russian Revolution. And this, she was discovered in 1995 by a man named Vladimir MEWE. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation or not, but he's Russian. He's a Siberian trader. So Anastasia, the story is that Anastasia was born in the forest in 1969, and her parents died when she was just a baby. So she lived most of her life, right, without warm clothes, food, or any shelter. She survived on fruits, nuts, berries, and mushrooms brought to her by the wild animals around her. And then she was able to live peacefully and harmoniously with nature. So basically the writer spent about 3 days with Anastasia, and Anastasia at that time displayed this amazing knowledge, right, of the future, amazing knowledge about nature and the earth, amazing knowledge about our human history. And there was a lot of power and wisdom there, so he began to write and record her words. So she told him actually that she would encode the books with an energy that would cause them to sell in millions. And despite that he had no writing experience at all, the writer, this is exactly what happened. The series sold over 11 million copies worldwide, and it was translated into 20 different languages. So basically she's untouched by the conditioning field that we received in this corrupt system, right, that we were brought up in. So I read the books back then, and I got to about book 4. Got to finish book 4, and I was impacted. I found it interesting, but it was a different time then, right? 2010. They definitely resonated as truth for me, but I put them down, you know, and I went on with my life. Well, this year, 2020, these books came back into my awareness, and I remembered one particular disturbing chapter in book 4 called Co-Creation. And it's really describing our potential future right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read from this chapter, and you can follow along. And then afterwards, we're going to break it all down and bring it to the present moment. So you need to throw off your ADD hat, right? I'm only able to focus a couple minutes at a time, and you got to put on your focus and patience hat on. So this is important information. It's worth your while to listen to. Okay, and for you to consider. So in this, what I'm about to read, we start off with Anastasia taking the writer through remote viewing to another unknown planet inhabited by aliens that are similar to us. So she had all of these spiritual powers. Okay? We found ourselves overlooking one of the cities or settlements of this huge planet. As far as the eye could see, the whole populated area consisted of great many cylindrical installations, something like our modern skyscrapers set in large numbers of circles. In the center of each circle were low-rise structures somewhat reminiscent of trees on Earth. Even their censer leaves were green. These artificial structures draw up from the ground all the components of the substances needed for sustenance, which are then dispatched through special pipes into the homes of every inhabitant of this particular world. Not only that, but they also maintain the requisite atmosphere for the planet. So we found ourselves almost at the very top of one of the cylindrical skyscrapers. There were absolutely no windows in this alien apartment block. The circular walls were marked off into dull colored squares. So it turns out that every inhabitant of the planet acquired an apartment like this once he had reached a certain age. So then they go to the flat, right, of the alien. So that my initial impression was one of surprise as its simplicity and apparent lack of amenities. The room, approximately 30 square meters in area, that's about 98 square feet, was completely barren. It wasn't just that there were no windows or partitions. There wasn't even the barest modicum of furniture. The smooth, pale walls bore not a single painting or shelf by way of decoration. So this alien is called Archon. So Anastasia says Archon has been living here for 20 years now, right? So he's had plenty of time to move in. His apartment has everything necessary for relaxation, entertainment, and work. All the necessary components are built into the walls. So no sooner had the brown-haired alien come up from his garage below than the ceilings in the walls of the room began to glow a soft light. Archon turned to face the wall next to the entrance, placed the palm of his hands on the surface, and uttered a sound, and the panel on the wall lit up. And Anastasia says, right now the computer is identifying the apartment's owner by the lines of his hands and his eye scan. Now it is greeting him and letting him know how long he's been gone, as well as the need to check his physical condition. Archon has put his other hand up on the console and is letting out a deep sigh so that the computer can check his physical condition. Now the checkup is complete and a message has appeared on the screen telling him he needs to take a nutrient mixture. It is asking him also, right, what he intends to do over the next 3 hours. This is important for the computer to know in order to prepare an appropriate mixture. So this mixture is optimized to boost his mental activity for the next 3 hours, after which he intends to go to sleep. The computer is suggesting that he not engage in any strenuous mental activity over a 3-hour period. Instead, it's recommending he take a solution calculated to sustain work activity for a period of 2 hours and 16 minutes. Archon has agreed to the computer's recommendation. At this point, a small niche opened in the wall from which Archon seized hold of a flexible pipe. Putting the end of the hose to his mouth, he took a drink or a bite to eat from the hose and then went over to the opposite wall. So from a section of the wall, all at once an armchair began to inflate. And then beside the chair, another niche opened. So then a woman appears on the screen, and Anastasia explained that Archon and the woman sitting opposite him were forming a child together. So she's like a hologram in front of him. So the inhabitants of this planet do not have sufficient strength of feeling to enter into sexual relations like people on Earth. Outwardly, their bodies are no different, right? No different than ours. But the absence of feelings does not allow them to produce offspring the way people do on Earth. It's their own cells and hormones that are contained in the test tubes that you see. So Anastasia says in the history of Earth, there have been 2 comings or invasions on their part. Now they are preparing for a third. They think a favorable moment for this is once more approaching. That means nothing can stop them if there are no weapons on Earth stronger than theirs. And Anastasia also says that man does have a weapon. It is known as man's thought. Okay, so the only thing is the majority of people on this Earth and almost all governments on Earth would consider their invasion a blessing. And the writer asks, but how could it happen that everyone took an invasion as an attack for a blessing? And at this point, Anastasia takes him to the invasion center to explain why. So the writer says, of course I was eager to see their interplanetary super technology that was capable of conquering a whole planet. So he sees a huge square room, and along each of the four walls there's a life-size replica of the interiors of our own native parliaments on Earth. Along one wall is the State Duma, and that's the Russian parliament, along with the office of the president in the Kremlin. And on the opposite wall, I could see the interiors of the American Congress and the office of the American president in the White House. Along the other two walls were the offices of various state political institutions, and some of the Asian countries, judging by their appearance. So in the parliamentary seats were sitting our earthly deputies, congressmen, and presidents. They were an exact copy of the familiar faces I had seen on TV. Only here they were sitting motionless like mummies. It's difficult to say what they were made of. Maybe they were dolls, holograms, or robots, or maybe even something else. In the middle of the huge hall was a raised platform on which were sitting approximately 50 aliens. They were dressed not in their usual bodysuits, but in our earthly clothing, and were listening to a speaker standing in front of them. They have mastered conversational speech without too much difficulty, but in the absence of certain feelings capable of provoking outward emotions, they're finding it rather hard to mimic Earth's people's gestures. And with their rational, realistic way of thinking, they cannot see any logic in earthly government systems. So the aliens' plan is that they will begin by making proposals to Earthlings through the governments of various countries, and their proposals will be accepted with great enthusiasm. And given the level of conscious awareness of most Earthlings today, they will take the aliens' proposal as a supreme manifestation of the humanity of the mind of the universe. And what kind of proposals are they? The writer asks. And Anastasia says they're monstrous. It's difficult for me even to talk about them. The aliens' first plan is to land a small party, 3 of their flying machines, on Russian territory. They will tell the military personnel which surround them of their desire to meet with government circles to talk about mutual cooperation. They will present themselves to the soldiers as representatives of the supreme mind of the universe and give them a demonstration of their superior technology. So then it goes on that the aliens will agree to a medical examination and put their proposals in writing as well as on video. And here's the text will read something like this from the aliens. We, the representatives of an extraterrestrial civilization, having achieved the ultimate level of technological development by comparison with other intelligent inhabitants of the universe, do hereby consider Earth people our brothers in reason. We are prepared to share our knowledge with societies on the Earth in various branches of science and social structure and offer them our technology. We ask you to consider our proposals and select the ones most suitable for improving the life of every member of your society. So then they will follow a whole series of concrete proposals, the substance which amounts to this. The visitors offer to share their technology in providing each citizen of the country with nutrient mixture and rapid construction of housing for everyone who has reached the age of maturity. So a job will be guaranteed for all who wish to have one. Not only that, but every single inhabitant of Earth will be required to contribute a certain minimum amount of work towards maintaining the technological devices. A nation that signs a treaty with the visitors, the aliens, will be completely protected from military invasion by any other nation. And in a society which embraces the new social order and its technologically supported lifestyle, there will be no crime. And the apartments provided you, everything you need, will react only to your voice command, identified by tones inherent only in your voice. Every day before you take in food, the computers in your apartment will scan your eyes, breath, and other parameters to determine your physical health and prescribe the corresponding food mixture composition. Each computer installed in an individual apartment will be linked with the main computer, which will thereby be able to pinpoint the exact geographic location of every individual, along with his state of physical and mental health. In return, the visitors plan to ask the government's permission to settle representatives of their civilization in sparsely inhabited areas, mainly forests, as well as a right of people to exchange their individual garden plots for technologically equipped apartments and provision of a lifetime care if they choose to do so. So the governments will agree under the impression that they will still be in full control. A number of even religious denominations will start preaching that the alien visitors are God's emissaries, since the aliens will not deny any of the religions existing on Earth. And then all information media will broadcast the ever-advancing achievements in technology and social order. This will move very quickly. The majority of the population will glorify the emissaries of the mind of the universe as intellectually superior brethren, as deities even in themselves. And everyone will be provided an apartment, food, and employment. So Anastasia says, do you not realize that once mankind accepts the terms of the aliens, they at the same time renounce their non-material divine self? In fact, it will self-destruct. All that is left will be the material bodies, and every man will come to more and more resemble a biological robot, and all the children of the earth will henceforth be born biological robots. And all people on the earth will be compelled to render daily service to those devices which outwardly serve them. All mankind will fall into a trap, surrendering their own freedom and that of their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren for the sake of an artificial technological perfection. Before long, many earth people will intuitively recognize their mistake and start ending their lives by suicide. And the writer asks, and if the parliaments and the governments of various countries are unwilling to sign treaties with the aliens, what then? Will they start destroying mankind? And Anastasia said, well, then the alien minds will look for other ways to lead everyone into a trap. There's no sense in their annihilating mankind. After all, their goal is to understand the interrelationship among all earthly creations, and by what power reproduction is brought about. Nothing like that can exist without man. It is man who is the chief link in the chain of harmony of earthly creation. And the sun's rays are part of the energy and feelings that many people reproduce. With their present level of consciousness today, today's earth people pose no resistance to the visitors, and many earthlings today are even trying to render them assistance. And the writer says, how so? Who among us are trying to help them? Does that mean they are traitors in our midst, working for them? And Anastasia says they are working for them. But these people are not traitors. Their acquiescence in this comes about involuntarily. It is without malice or premeditation. The main reason is their lack of faith in themselves and in the perfection of God's creation. So when man admits that the thought that he is not a perfect creation, when all at once begins to imagine that there are beings on other planets of superior intellect, he himself feeds them by his own thought. Man himself thereby belittles his own God-given power and attributes power to creations other than the divine. So does any of this sound familiar to those that are out there doing their research? Right? So if you want to know about our future, It's not, you don't have to dig very far. You just go to the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset. And here's a little video that they put out. Our food chain is about to break down in 2021, and this is on purpose. And the plan is to eat less meat, which means eating more GMO food, right? In particular, insect protein. So it will become against man's law to eat from nature, to take anything from nature. And it's already illegal to share your garden with your neighbors in New Zealand. So there's a little picture of maybe our future food for some. Insect protein. Doesn't that look yummy? So the World Economic Forum, WEF, the Great Reset, includes a plan to transform the global food and agricultural industries and the human diet. This is all out there. You don't need to just go to their website. It's all there and open, right, in plain sight. They have to inform us. They have to put it out there, right? So everything we're looking for, it's not hidden. It's out there. You know, back in 1999, 2000, when I started doing deep research, you had to work, right? You had to hustle to get to this information. Now it's right there. So the architects of the plan claim it will reduce food scarcity, hunger, disease, and even mitigate climate change. Okay, that's the promise, the deception. But a closer look at the corporation and the think tanks the WEF is partnering with are ushering this global transformation that suggests that the real motive is tighter corporate control over the food system by means of technological solutions. And the way to control people is to control the food, right? So Vandana Shiva, she's awesome. She's a scholar, environmentalist. She's an advocate and author. And she's from India. I'm sure you've heard of her. She battled with Monsanto, and yeah, very powerful woman. So she said the Great Reset is really about multinational corporate stakeholders at the WEF controlling as many elements of planetary life as they can possibly can. From the digital data humans produce to each morsel of food we eat. Like this efficiency, right, to make us more like a machine. So the other plan is for every human being to be tracked and traced using facial recognition software. That's the future. And what they'll put out, because they got to spin it, right, so that we buy into it, is that there'll be no more crime, right? Also universal basic income, so that basically everyone is dependent on one government. And whoever pays you, right, you got to answer to them. So whatever the government decides what you need to do, right, to get your crumbs, basically. So also in this plan is not to have any natural born babies. They'll be all test tube babies so that they can create the genetics, right, create this genetic perfection. And also we'll be connected to our environment through AI. So the computer will be operating the ideal temperature, scanning the condition of your health, right? If you're overweight, then forget being able to buy a chocolate bar at the store, because you'll be refused, right? No, I can't sell this to you, because AI is going to determine what's good for you and what's not. So also what's interesting is the people of Earth will have to render daily to the technology, devices, and gadgets that service them. And this is biometrics, and it's energy harvesting, right? That's also a tie-in to the Anastasia prophecy. So the scariest thing that I read and remember being really impacted by it in 2010, maybe when you heard it too, it affected you, is that once mankind agrees to the terms of the aliens, right, they'll renounce their non-material divine self. Do you remember that? It will self-destruct, she says, and all that will be left with will be material bodies and will turn into these biological robots. Well, this is the VEEAXX, which contains nanobots that directly affect our God gene. They've been working on this. This doesn't come overnight, which means we lose our divinity. We no longer feel God. We no longer experience God. And this is really accepting the terms of the aliens that Anastasia refers to, is getting the jab. So I really urge you to do your own research. I'm not telling anybody what to do, right? But I urge you to do your research. Be a spiritual adult. Be an advocate for your own health, and especially your children, right? If you have children, because they don't have a voice. They depend on you for their well-being. And remember, it's not going to be your children. It's going to be grandchildren, great-grandchildren. It's going to impact at least 7 generations. And that's what all this warp speed plan is about, right? The VEEAXX, right? Let's do that to millions of Americans in 24 hours, right? That's a little bit fishy. Wouldn't it be more prudent to have a control group, maybe a good cross section of people, maybe 50 to 100? Let's start there instead of millions and millions and see what happens. No, let's jab every American, because then it will be too late, right? All of this information is out there, and it's coming from credible sources, okay? So do your due diligence and do your research and make an informed decision. So where is all this new technology coming from? Like when you start to read more and more on the WEF website, where's all this coming from? It doesn't feel like it's coming from humans, right? This FIVEGEE, right? AI can't be coming from humanity. It has to come from an extraterrestrial presence. That's what I feel strongly. And it almost seems like the aliens arrived long ago, right? They're already here. Don't you get that sense? Do you get that sense? The ones in control that are telling us what to do, they seem very different than us, even though they pretend that they're like us, don't they? And that's why it's difficult for many to see or believe that our so-called leaders would want to destroy this world, have people suffer, depopulate humanity, commit genocide on billions of people. We can't go there. It's like I can't believe a fellow human would be that evil. Right? To create a world devoid of empathy, kindness, love, God, divinity. It makes more sense to me that these human forms are actually alien, or they're humans that are possessed by aliens or demons, whatever you want to call them. Okay, so not to scare you, because you know, if you've been following me for a while, that I'm not about pumping out fear at all, right? My job is to empower you, right, with information, with tools. Okay, so let's look at the spiritual side. Well, we can't stop this from happening, right? Many people it's happening, right? It's happening. We can't stop it. Astrology even says that too. So many people will choose to go there. They'll live in the smart cities. They'll fall for this great deception, and and the powers that be are going to sugarcoat it. They're going to look at that website. No more poverty, no more world hunger. Everyone has a job, a place to live, food, clothes on their back. No more disease, right? They're appealing to the part of us that's in fear and that just wants comfort, right? It will sound really, really good to many, but read the fine print, right? The devil is in the details. If it's too good to be true, that's probably true. So do your research, read the fine print. Okay, they're going to take away all my debt, but here's the condition, here's the rope, right? You've got to say that you're not going to own anything in the future and that you'll go through the VAXX schedule. It doesn't stop with one jab. It's going to be many, many jabs. So when we think about the Aquarian age, we spiritual people tend to focus on the light side of Aquarius, right? Which is like philanthropy, innovation, community, equality, friendliness, people-oriented, altruistic, original, futuristic, brilliant, genius, right? Liberation, right? It's about massive change, right? The light side of Aquarius is the massive social change for the better. But we also need to look at the shadow side of Aquarius, right? The shadow side. And this is the thing that we really need to start doing. And this is why people don't want to go deep. They only want to take in that mainstream news and they don't want to look elsewhere because they don't want to face the shadow and the darkness because they don't want to face it in themselves, right? And there's no fear. Well, actually, the shadow is fear. It's about looking at it in truth. We're just looking at it. That in itself is a huge step. To acknowledge there's darkness on this planet. There's darkness inside me that I have to transmute. And that's part of my work, part of my spiritual work and moving forward in the Aquarian age. And this is what I deal with, right, in my programs, is shadow. It's nothing to be afraid of. And there's actually light there, a lot of light. So back to Aquarius. So remember that Aquarius has two rulers. The ancient ruler is Saturn, right? And the modern ruler is Uranus. So before the discovery of Uranus in 1781, Saturn was the ruler. So they're both still there, but most astrologers don't talk about that. So Aquarius is fixed air, right? And this is about holding on to the old order of society. So you may think, well, this future dystopian view, I mean, it's totally changing how our society goes, but the actual structure foundation isn't changing, right? This is the fixed air. This is the pyramid, right? The few at the top ruling the many, right? So there'll be a new social order for sure, but that hierarchy remains, right? That control remains. So the shadow side will look like fanaticism. It's like unreasonable, antisocial, impersonal, aloof, right? No consideration for others, cold and clinical, right? Scientific, efficiency, right? That's the shadow word, like overly efficient. So how this would look is like, the efficiency, right? The machine and the numbers and everything streamlined, right? Treating us like robots. It could be like AI looks at, there's a part of the human collective that's not efficient. They're not contributing enough in their energy harvesting, right? Well, pick them up in the white van, right? They're a threat to the collective, and then go terminate them. Right? This is good for the whole. This is good to be more efficient, right? That's the coldness, right? That scientific coldness, which is corporations, right? Even now, if we were to describe that in an entity, it would be a corporation. So in the shadow frequency, there's no individuality, right? You have to give up your individual rights for the good of the many. We're all in this together. Right? That's the shadow of Aquarius talking. How can you be so selfish Fall in line like everybody else, right? That's the shadow of Aquarius. So the medicine, let's talk about the medicine. It will not be found in fanaticism, right? Like just swinging to the other way, which complete anarchy. But it's found in the polarity, right? The balancing the archetype of Aquarius with the archetype of Leo, its opposite sign. And Leo is the heart of the zodiac. And if you have any Leos in your life, like sun, moon, or rising, you know what big hearts these people have, right? And the only reason that humans do wicked, bad, evil things is that they've been disconnected from their own hearts. Leo is the individual. Leo is the king, right? So becoming self-sovereign, the king or queen of your own life. This is, right, moving out of adolescent and moving into spiritual adulthood. This is what this time is about. One of the many things this time is about. You're going to look back at this time, 2020, and you're going to go, wow, right? Like what a transition I experienced through these great challenges. So your responsibility is to make wise decisions for yourself during this time. And a dependent, if you have a dependent, like a child. So going to your heart, not your head, right? And when you make a decision from your heart, you automatically serve others in ways that you cannot see, right? So if you need more information on the correct way for you to make decisions, then check out my How to Read Your Own Chart. That will get you started, that in itself. But for now, go to your heart. So with this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius coming up on December 21st, there's going to be huge breakout societies. You can't get locked in like this is the only way. No, you've got to expand. And Jupiter, Saturn, and Aquarius says breakout societies. So these people will live in rural areas. They'll grow their own food, start their own economies, live in peace and harmony. And I feel like these communities will be left alone for the most part, right? And who wants to be eating their insect food, right? Their insect burger, right? Shopping in their corporations, not being allowed in nature, right? Everything inorganic, fake trees, fake flowers, fake light. Because they can't live in the organic world, right? So they're trying to turn it into their world. That's why they're trying to destroy it. And own nothing, right? Allowing them to nickel and dime you for everything on your hard work while they sit back and collect the wealth, right? These, what would you call these entities? Well, they're parasites, and we're the host. We have the power. They need us. We don't need them. And it's our eternal soul that is creative beyond measure. It's our eternal soul that's creative beyond measure. They're not creative. We are. But we've been beaten down. We've been manipulated. We've been mind controlled by the sick system, right? I remember even as a child, like an adolescent, saying to my parents, I didn't agree to this system. Why do we have to do that? Why do we have to do that? Right? They had no answers for me. It just is. Right? Because we don't know who we are. We don't know our power of creation. And we don't know our creator. For the most part, we don't know our creator. We don't know God. So one of the first things that Hitler did was he got rid of religion. He got rid of God. The citizens were made to worship Hitler and not God. So we'll be made to worship AI to be able to live in this system. Each person will have to serve the technological devices that serve them through their energy harvesting. And that sounds like worship to me, right? So why will people fall for it? Well, the lack of faith in themselves, the lack of faith in God. And what does that look like today? Well, forgetting that you were created in the image of God. God's given you everything that you need. It's all inside you. Everything you need is inside you. You don't think that God thought about the threat of disease for humans, his children? God gave you a powerful immune system. We forget about that. There's no talk about how to strengthen your immune system, right? God gave you this amazing physical body that can adapt to any environment, right? So that you are continually growing and changing and evolving. God gave you the gift of creativity, God gave you natural food. That's right. That is our medicine. When nature becomes out of balance, it provides the cure in a natural way, right? God gave us sunshine and fresh air. When somebody has no faith in God, right, this new fourth industrial revolution reset, this promise is going to look really good to them. But look at the cost, right? It's shifting your faith from God to AI. It will cost you your humanity. It will cost you your heart. It will cost you your feelings and your empathy. What makes you human? It will cost you the natural world, right? It will cost you your eternal soul. So it's truly a spiritual war for each one of us, right? This war inside of us. Like, what voice are we going to listen to? Are we going to listen to that so-called expert authority figure on the news? Are we going to listen to our own inner voice, right? If people truly had faith in God, they would have faith in themselves. That's automatic, right? They'd say, screw this train ride to hell, right? Here's my ticket back. I'm not interested. I'm going to create something new, right? What wants to be expressed through me? How can I serve this new world that me and my tribe, there's many, many people that are on the same page as you. How can I serve this new world, this organic world, right? I'm choosing not to give the dystopian story too much of my attention, right? I'm going to bring my focus into the creativity. That's where the life is. Dystopian is where the death is. So I just want to mention I've been practicing a Kriya and meditation for the pineal gland this week. And I noticed that I'm having dreams again. I haven't had dreams in a while. And I'm a lucid dreamer. That's how I get my information from my soul. I actually got bougie because I had a dream that I got a little puppy. So that's how I got my dog. And I'm so happy I listened to that dream, right? And I feel more in the world, but not of the world. So when the pineal is activated, it takes you into another dimension, right? It's a portal. It's the seat of the soul. And like a lighthouse that gets activated and turned on and starts to radiate your pineal, this brings more light into the body so that you can actually see the truth. It's not so difficult to see through the darkness with the pineal activated. So it's a portal so that you can rise above the physical, mental, emotional realms, and then you don't get caught in your lower self, you know? So this means that you're in contact with higher realms and that are assisting us in this great transition into the authentic Aquarian age, not the fake Aquarian age. So I put it together, right? And it also has a meditation to protect you from foreign EMF frequencies, as well as teachings on the pineal gland, detox, tools that you can use to make your home safer from these foreign frequencies. So it's up on my website now. It's super affordable. I made it super affordable, and then you own it, right? So you can start to practice it. I'm going to do it for 40 days. Because our battle is not with persons out there. Our battle's not with the government, right? Our battle right now is with frequencies, right? And there's a direct threat on our pineal gland, and there has been since 1955. So you'll find out all of that too, right? So now you know why. And also, I have a permanent 20% discount on all my offerings for the mothers, especially the mothers of 0 to 7-year-olds. They're the first teacher, and they are literally forming our future. That's not poetry. They're literally doing that. And these 0 to 7 years are pivotal for all humans. All those patterns, for good or bad, get laid down in those years. And this is what's being manipulated right now when the media and the political puppets, right, creating fear in the masses and re-traumatizing our childhood wounds so that we obey, right? So this is what my 6-week inner child program undoes, those patterns, right? So that you can become more self-sovereign. You can leave that behind, that child self behind. So I just want you to know that it's all going to end well. It will. It's all going to end well. And according to prophecy and astrology and human design, but we need to get through this rough patch first. This is our test, right? So we can steel ourselves up, get that steel spine, right? So that we can stand up for ourselves. So keep your faith. Above all else, keep your faith. And no matter how dark it gets in your life, in the world, keep your faith. And commit to your sadhana practice. Right? So if you don't have a meditation or a sadhana practice, you can go to my playlist under meditation and then choose one, practice it for 40 days. Or better yet, go to the Connect and Protect class and purchase that and then practice that for 40 days. That's the best one right now, right? It's going to protect you from frequency and it will connect you through the pineal gland to the higher realms. And also rely on God before the government. Rely on God before AI technology, right? Ask and you shall receive. So before going to Siri for your answers, ask God first, right? You'll be surprised at how well that works, and slowly wean yourself off of technology. I'm doing that myself. I'm not becoming so reliant on GPS or even adding like calculator. I'll actually do math by hand. I'll write in my journal just to keep my penmanship, right? Keep myself as organic as I can, and of course food and stuff. That's all in this class, right? There's lots of hot tips in it. Okay, so take good care of your organic self, and I'll see you soon, probably with the full moon. We got a full moon coming up on the 30th. Okay? Sat Nam Aloha.